Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Nutritional Revolution podcast. This is Kyla speaking, and then we have Kristen, practitioner here, and we have Nia in the background taking notes, and we have a super rad guest for you guys. Just a two-time Olympian, no big deal. We have Lea Davison today, and she's from Jericho, Vermont, a graduate from Middlebury College, where she competed as a downhill ski racer. And get this, she shifted to mountain biking because it's amazing, right? So she started mountain biking in 2001 and took silver medal at the 2016 World Champs, and then bronze at the 2014 World Champs, and third overall in the 2015 World Cup Series. And she just released last month, August 2022, depending on when you're listening to this, a really amazing TED Talk. So we're going to link that in the show notes. I highly suggest you go listen to it. But Lea, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, we are super stoked. We would love to know, how did you go from skiing into mountain biking?
That's a great question. How did that happen? Well, growing up in Vermont, it's a very, as you can imagine, like a winter focused state. And most of our Olympians that come from here are winter sport Olympians. Mm-hmm. And so I was ski racing naturally, because that's very much so part of the athletic culture here growing up. And that kind of led naturally into mountain biking, because I was downhill ski racing, running cross country actually in high school. And it's a weird combo because they're kind of opposite sports in terms of one's very explosive downhill, the other one's endurance.
Yeah. You know, good combo for the body.
Yes. And a friend, I think it was my junior year in high school, said, "Hey, why don't you stop running circles on the track and try this mountain biking thing?" And I fell in love immediately, because it was the perfect combo of downhill ski racing, kind of the descending skills that you need on the bike, and then that endurance that I got from cross country running. So amazing. I just naturally took to it. And then I found out, I started racing these local races, then went to my first national race, and I won actually as a junior. So that means you're 18 and younger. Wow. And USA Cycling came up to me and they said, "Hey, you won this race. You've qualified for the World Championships." And I was like, "What? There's a World Champ?
What's that?"
I had no idea. And then from that moment, I found out, oh, people do this for a living. There's a World Championships for this, and there's an Olympics for this. And I always had that Olympic dream. Mm-hmm. And from that moment on, I'm like, game on. This is what I'm doing.
That's awesome. Out of curiosity, did your ski resort that you would go to, did it turn into a downhill biking during the summer months?
That's a great question, because a lot of ski resorts are going that direction, but no. It didn't.
Okay. So you weren't ripping
that's
the same
more
trail.
Recent too.
Yeah.
Like in the last maybe 5 to 10 years. We've
totally. There's been that evolution kind of, exactly, in the last 5 to 10 years because of climate change and less snow. And so these ski resorts have to go to other revenues. But that was way back 20 years ago. So
back in the day,
a little bit different. Yeah.
There's totally some great trails over there in Vermont, though, I'm assuming.
It's incredible.
Wow. Yeah.
It's incredible. Yeah. And only gotten better over the course of my career. So
that's awesome. And bike technology, I would imagine, has changed quite a bit.
It's completely different. It's like a dream to ride these bikes now.
Yes. So cushy, right? The suspension, pretty incredible. So you were also involved in something called Little Bellas, and I definitely want to talk about that. Can you tell us what that is for those who don't know?
Yeah, Little Bellas is a nonprofit that my sister, Sabra Davison, and myself and another woman, Angela Irvine, started way back in 2007. It's a all girls mentoring on mountain bikes program. Cool. And we started in Vermont, and now we are nationwide. And we are powered by are volunteer mentors. So we have about 600 women who volunteer for our chapters and programs all around the US. And yeah, it's really just grown. And it was started by the fact that we noticed that there weren't as many women riding bikes and racing bikes really were the world that my sister and I were in. And we're like, this is wrong. We have to change this. You know, so we used that kind of observation and took action and created the Little Bellas.
Awesome. I love that. I'm based in Marin. We talked about this a little bit before we hit record, but I've definitely seen the Little Bellas happening out here. What's the age range that they take on?
Yeah, it's 7 to 14 years old. Okay. And then there are, you know, programs depending on where you are, but there's types of programming for after, you know, these Little Bellas graduate out of the program. So they can become junior mentors. They can, in a lot of locations, do our ride program, which is they kind of graduate to like, okay, now we're going to shred the single track and like a rad ladies group ride. Right. Yeah. And then in Vermont, we have a program called the Bee Project for teenage girls. And this is really cool. It's pretty much teaching these teenage girls how to adventure, because that's something that you need to learn. Yeah. You know, we all didn't just like wake up like this, you know, like Beyonce. And so we have an awesome program lead for that, Sarah Schreiber, and she takes these women on adventures. I mean, they ride to Mount Mansfield to the hiking trail. They will hike up Mount Mansfield, come back down, ride their bikes back, or they'll stay overnight in the woods and have to make their own shelter. I mean, I've never done that.
So cool. I never did anything like that in high school.
I know. So rad. It's really fun. Yeah. And they do full moon adventures. And it's like, yeah, let's teach them how to take advantage of all these things in our backyard, because there's so much fun to be had.
That's amazing. And how does someone get involved in the Little Bellas?
Yeah, you can go to our website, littlebellas.com, and check us out. You can sign up. Please sign up for the email notifications, because that's how we tell you about when programs and your local program on the registration opens up, because it's in high demand, and we want to make sure it's everyone has a fair shot at our program. So yeah, that's the best way. You can also follow us on Instagram, Facebook, we're on all the social media channels, and it's a very cute feed.
Yes. I'm sure to see these girls. I think it's such a great transition. When I'm out riding, I just see so many more young girls and women on bikes. When I started in high school, I feel like there wasn't that many, and I just love to see it. I love it.
Oh, me too. Yeah. At the beginning, when we started, I mean, in 2007, I was literally searching for mentors, right? Like we need these mentors to ride with the girls. And every woman I saw that was on a bike or not, an athletic or not, I would be like, hey, why don't you come and learn how to ride a bike and mentor in our program? Now there are so many women out on the trails, like you said, it's awesome. We're like, all right, this is like, we've built something, and these Little Bellas are graduating out of the program, riding the trails, getting their friends to ride. So it's been a great evolution to see. And I think the pandemic has helped that out too.
Yes. Yeah. The bikes were flying off the shelves during the pandemic.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah. I remember, this is going to age me a little bit, but probably like 17 to 18 years ago, when I was in high school, our mountain bike team was just starting, and there was one girl on the team. And I came from like a basketball background, but my dad got me into mountain biking. He's 6'4" and put me on his hardtail, mongoose or something like that. Oh my God. I like hated him in that moment. I was like, I hate mountain biking,
Of course, it's way too big.
Yes. But eventually it grew on me. Right. And got the right bike, fell in love with getting outside, all of that stuff. But it's come a long, long way in schools and all that stuff. So I love seeing that, and girls getting involved, like you're saying. I think that's so wonderful. And it was hard for me to find like girls to ride with for a really long time. Now we got a good crew going, and we keep trying to recruit people to our bike club, but
I love it. Yeah. That is the cool aspect of Little Bellas that we didn't really foresee, but it's building community on all these different levels, right? So at first we were focused on, let's get more girls in this sport of mountain biking. It's so incredible. It can teach you so much. You literally have to surmount obstacles, and you can kind of bring in the same skill set when you come up against a challenge in life. And what we found was with our volunteer mentors, this is a space where they can find each other, and like, you can find your tribe. I know that's like, worn out, that saying, but it's like, you find like-minded individuals who like to ride bikes, and it's sometimes hard to do that, especially if you move to a new community. And then at the next level, parents were riding. So moms and dads were getting on bikes and riding during the Little Bellas sessions. And now they need to improve because they need to keep up with their daughters.
Totally. That's great. Wow.
So it's been a really cool kind of, I think, uplifting of a lot of different levels of the community through mountain bikes. And it's just so much fun to be a part of.
Yeah, I love it. So we're going to take a little segue here. So if you guys don't already follow Lea on Instagram, her Instagram handle is Lea Eats a Lot. So we don't know why her name is this, but we would love to know. Can you break it down for us?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of started out as a joke when I started my Instagram, at the beginning, because I do eat a lot, I think compared to like average consumption of food, maybe by women. And, I'm like riding a lot, working out, you need to fuel that workout. And so I eat a lot.
You gotta fuel the machine for sure.
And I love food. I mean, it's like one of my passions, I would say. I'm a foodie. Awesome. I get Bon Appetit, that magazine every month. I like pour through it immediately. I try the recipes. Yeah.
That's awesome. And so, I mean, this is something nutrition, energy intake is always a big surprise many times for a lot of our endurance athletes when we actually like break down how much they need to be eating. And many times it's specifically too in the carbohydrate department, a lot of them are like, oh my goodness, this is like way more than I was consuming. And there's definitely a fear of it for sure initially. And once they kind of jump in and make the change, then we're getting messages from them like, oh my gosh, I felt so much better. I never bonked. I got my paces were faster. I went so much further, all that stuff. So, I mean, was there any like game changes for you over your career with things you were doing with your nutrition or anything like that?
Absolutely. And I'm so glad that you are spreading that message because it's so important. It's definitely opposite to a lot of the messages that popular culture is spreading, like it's so everyone's so scared of carbs and you need them, like that was one of the things, when I started working with a nutritionist, through Team USA in 2017, Liz Fusco, she's amazing. Awesome. Now she works with US Rowing. Okay. And I'm still working with her, but she, they developed this resource on teamusa.org, I think, and go on there because there's a bunch of different resources, but the one that I love the most is Athlete's Plate.
Oh, and yes.
I think I've seen that.
Yes. We use that too with some of our clients. Yeah.
Awesome.
Love it.
Yeah. I'm a visual person. And so it's a visual of a plate. And this is what your plate should look like. And their portions, right, of protein, fruits and veggies, and whole grains.
Love it.
On an easy day, on a moderate day, and on a hard day. So it's easy plate, moderate plate, hard plate. And so I can like literally compare.
Yeah.
And that I would say was a game changer. And because, I mean, not like I was doing this. I was doing this already, but just to be reinforced that all days have carbs.
Yeah.
Right. All days.
You need
all
carbs
the days
to recover as well.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm sure like you ladies and a lot of your listeners, like we are movers and shakers. Like we are, even on the easy workout days, you're running to this thing, you're meeting friends, you're going to work, so you're actually expending more energy than you think you are, because, oh, I just did an hour spin, or I took the day off. Well, you still need carbs. And so kind of to get that reinforcement was huge, I think. And I just want to like spread those athletes' plates all over the place, because, and like the message that you're spreading, like you need to fuel, and carbs are magic, really.
Yeah,
like,
they really are.
They're magic.
A game changer.
Yeah. And they're fun to eat. So.
Yes. Right. Absolutely.
The other, I mean, there's been a couple of big game changers, I think. Another one that we worked a lot on was getting enough fuel on the bike, because that's really hard. I mean, you're literally on the go. You can't unwrap things. It's sticky in your pocket. You're like, how many Haribo gummies can I chew? Not enough, you know, there's like a choking hazard.
Yeah.
And so we worked a lot on getting enough carbs per hour on my rides. And it turns out for years, I was underfueled on the bike.
Yeah.
And, you know, like for up to a 2-hour ride, you need, for me, and I think, I mean, I'm asking you to, if you think the same, like 30 grams per hour of carbs. And then after I kind of get past that 2-hour mark, I go more to like 30 plus. So 50 grams per hour, even up if you train your gut to 70 grams per hour.
Yeah.
So that's a combo of gels, you know, of drink mix, of everything. And once I started to do that, and this was only in like the past 2 years, 3 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah. I was feeling better on the bike. You would recover better. And the thing that told me I was doing it right was every night I would wake up hungry and have to have a snack. So I would have a yogurt. I would have a yogurt, a banana. I mean, pretty much anything that's a banana, maybe with some cashew butter. And when I started fueling right on the bike, I wasn't going into that big deficit. So I would sleep through the night.
And that enhances your recovery as well.
And I don't like to, I mean, weight is it's a rabbit hole, and there should be a lot of factors that you're judging success, performance on, right? There's a lot of other stuff outside of the scale, and there's way too much focus on that number. And once I started fueling with more carbs on the bike, I lost weight.
Isn't that interesting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because my body's not
happy.
It's happy. So like, oh my gosh, hold on to everything.
It's scared you're not going to give it enough. And so it holds on to it. And I have a lot of, you know, I think Kyla does as well. We have a lot of clients where they come to us and some of even think they're overeating. And we do the diet analysis, and they're way under fueling. And they're worried that by eating more, they're going to gain weight, but it's actually the opposite. If you're fueling your body, you have more energy, and your body's willing to expend those carbohydrates.
And your hormones are firing properly. I mean, that's one of the big things we've seen is like the suppression of the sex hormones and elevation in cortisol and stuff like that. Even with there was a study that we were watching the professor present recently on the within day energy. So you could still be hitting all your energy at the end of the day, but you went 4, 5, 6 hours without eating in the middle of the day. And even just from that, they saw suppression in the sex hormones in both males and female athletes, and then elevation in cortisol. So very interesting stuff, but also like all the more reason to keep fueling the machine, right?
Yeah. Well, and give your body the fuel when it needs it.
Totally.
It needs it while you're on the bike. A lot of athletes are like, well, I just eat a huge dinner later in the day. And it's like, well, that's not really when your body actually really needs that fuel. It needs it before, during, and after.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite go-to pre-training, like breakfast or meal or something that you love, Lea?
Yeah, that's kind of like switched up it actually switched up at the pandemic because I realized it was eggs and toast, like 2 eggs over medium, hot sauce, 2 pieces of toast. And then on a longer ride or a heavy training day, like a glass of orange juice, just to get that extra carb. Yeah. That's also something we worked on.
Nice. There you go. Love it. Yeah.
Or like pancakes. And then I realized I was having that too much because I would travel and have different stuff and mix it up. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so burnt on this breakfast during the pandemic when I wasn't traveling and racing. So then I kind of, I got more into pancakes, muffins,
nice.
Just cereal or, oatmeal. That was the other thing I got into, but oatmeal is really just a vehicle for cashew butter and maple syrup for me. And fruit, let's be honest.
Yeah, perfect. That is spot on. That's great. So talking about carbs and adding those, I mean, I love that you mentioned juice. I think that's an area where a lot of people are like, also there's a little bit of fear, like that they shouldn't be drinking these like liquid calories and stuff like that. And there is a time and a place where it can be really beneficial, especially pre-training. If you don't want to have your stomach feeling super full, it's a quick way to get some good carbs in. So I love that suggestion. And then what about your post-training recovery? Is there a go-to or a couple go-tos, something from Bon Appetit? Your Bon Appetit.
This was actually the first game changer in my career. I worked a little bit with Stacy Sims.
Oh, yes, totally.
She's great in terms of focusing on females and nutrition and where, females are not small men.
Yes. So when did you work with her out of curiosity?
I think it was.
Was she still with Osmo?
Yes, she was still with Osmo.
I was working under her at that time.
No way.
Yes.
That's awesome.
You might have been one of the athletes. I was like in the background shadowing her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's so funny. Cool.
Yeah.
It was definitely like 2014, like 2012 in that time zone, I think.
That's great. Oh
goodness. So we worked on, you have to get protein like within 20 minutes of ending your workout. And this is something that I had no idea. I mean, you need to learn these things. And also at the beginning of my career, I mean, there was not as much information out there. Like I look at these young athletes now coming up and I'm like, oh my God, I had no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, I even rode my first junior world championships with the Camelback, taking feeds. Like, I didn't know. I mean,
totally.
I didn't know I didn't need a Camelback. So, you need to learn kind of sometimes the hard way, but that was huge for me. So that's my first order of business is post-workout. I have to get that protein in. And it usually comes in the form of a recovery shake, just with, protein powder, maybe some Noon Recover in there, some lemonade and and some like just frozen strawberries or mango. And then I just recently started working with Core Power. And so they make a very accessible protein drink. It's a milk product, but they remove the lactose.
Oh, cool.
And so, it's awesome. I mean, you can literally go into most grocery stores, gas stations and get it. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is that the Fairlife Core Power?
Yes.
Is that the same? Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
And it's delicious. They have like chocolate, vanilla, and So, sometimes I'm like driving out to a trailhead.
Yeah, that's nice to have it convenient at different gas station stops. Because it's hard to like remember to bring your protein powder with you sometimes when you travel.
Yeah. And sometimes you can't like, you don't have a blender, and then I don't want to shake up the protein powder. So I mean, this has been great because I'm like, oh, this is really convenient.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep it in the fridge, and you just, you like throw that back and it gives you the protein that you need.
Awesome.
And so you're getting that, those things that you need within that window, and then followed up with a meal is ideal. So lunch, I mean, I've actually moved my breakfast to my lunch. So it's like eggs, eggs is like easy protein, toast, or like little egg tacos, or leftovers, really.
Yeah. Do you follow a like vegetarian diet, or are you an omnivore? No. Okay.
I love meat.
Yeah. Okay.
Awesome. I mean, I'm trying to, just for environmental reasons, to incorporate more tofu.
Okay, cool.
My life.
Yeah.
And my dad became a vegan too. So
really? Okay.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like only like 5 years ago. He's not like, oh, you eat meat, like not one of those vegans.
That's good.
But he's been inspiring, really, to be like, okay, maybe I can switch some of this out.
Few meals and a week.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah, to make an impact. Yeah.
I love eggs can work any time of day. I mean,
I eat them for lunch almost every day.
Yeah. How, in a breakfast bowl, or like how do you do it?
Totally.
That's great. So talking about carbs, we love talking about carbs. Did you ever do any intentional like carb loading or glycogen supercompensation leading up to any of your events?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I've been getting into some longer distance races. So last year I retired from cross country World Cup racing.
Okay.
So I had done that for 20 years. It's the Olympic format, 90 minutes of racing. And this season I'm just racing. Well, not just, I'm actually headed off to world champs.
Nice.
Casually on Saturday. But it's the marathon discipline. So this is like a 3.5 to 4.5 hour effort on the mountain bike. I did so this year has been really some longer stuff, which is new to me, and it's
cool.
New challenges. Which for sure includes having that hard athlete's plate the night before, maybe even two nights before. And then before that, I've done some mountain bike stage races, which usually include those longer efforts. And it's back to back, right? So it can be 7 days in a row, 5 days in a row.
Wow.
And so with that, it's like Liz just says at the finish line, get in whatever you can. And as much as you can. Is it Coke? Is it whatever? Just like down the hatch, because
this is energy in.
Grab it again tomorrow.
So like, and that has helped recover and be prepared day in and day out, like in big training blocks too.
Yeah. That's awesome. So coming up to this weekend's event, marathon distance, you're saying, how does your hydration and fueling, like, do you have a game plan as of now? And like on a mountain bike where things are a little bumpier, like how do you time when to eat? Like, can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, this is a great question because it's something I've been recently working on. Because I've realized this season, I have fueled up until like, 60, 70 grams of carbs per hour, because it's a hard effort. And I've realized a couple times, oh my gosh, I crossed the finish line and I am done. I mean, my stomach
Oh yeah.
Is done. I've like had gut drop, right? Like, you know what that sounds like.
Yeah. We talk about it all the time.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm not okay for like that entire, I don't know, 6 hours, that entire evening, you know, until the next day. And oh my gosh, what's going on? I'm fueling properly. So what is happening here? You know, it's not crazy numbers. Like it's not like 100 grams per hour.
Right.
And so Liz is like, and I'm like, I'm a heavy sweater.
Yeah.
And so what was happening is the balance is off. So I am not hydrated enough to take in enough fuel. And so it's like I'm taking 100 grams of carbs, right?
Right.
Like, I need more hydration. This is something I have realized.
Yeah.
And you both can probably explain that more, like that balance that you need in the gut, right?
Yeah,
like,
totally. Well, and everybody's so individual, right? Yeah. So like, that's something too. We have our clients do sweat testing because that's from the research. I mean, we're seeing like everybody can be on such a huge range. I mean, you can have somebody who's only losing 33 ounces an hour and you can have someone who's losing 145 ounces an hour in the exact same temperature. So it's pretty important to know how much that person needs to drink to delay that dehydration. And sodium too is going to vary, you know. So I had a client recently and she was a triathlete and she was fueling great, hitting her marks on the bike. But then when she got to the run, her fueling product had like 0 sodium in it. And she wanted to just sip water on course, which led to a ton of GI issues, as you would imagine. And as soon as we added some sodium into her run, she was zero GI issues. So it's like, like you're saying, creating that proper balance and composition in the gut is really important.
Totally. We did some sweat testing when I was up north doing a mountain bike stage race.
Yeah.
And if I'm remembering correctly, like losing 74 ounces per hour.
Wow.
So I'm a sweaty Betty.
Yeah. Sweaty Betty.
In conclusion. And so
hence the gut issues, though. If you're not taking in enough, it's gonna happen.
Wow. Yeah, which is so interesting. Like I never thought it would be because of hydration. I'm losing so much. So I have started to carry a Camelback, you know, so because on the mountain bike, it's so hard sometimes to reach down. And in these long races, gravel races, mountain bike races that I'm doing, a lot of times they don't have feed zones. Like you have to stop and no one wants to stop.
Totally.
Racing, you know?
Yeah, totally.
And so I'm literally going out there with a full Camelback and 2 tall bottles to be prepared. I'm used to cross country, only an hour and a half. I see a feed zone every 10 minutes, you know, so take a drink, throw it away. I'm good. You know, like it's not long enough for those things to really take into effect. So my plan is to go in hydrated. So I use Noon and they have a great series, the Podium series, which is more for like racing, you know, and these harder training efforts. And that's what I use on the bike. And I use their tabs like strength training and just for daily hydration, pretty much.
Awesome.
Delicious. But they have a pre-product that's like a hyper hydration product. And then they have the during product. So that's what I'll use out on the bike and in combo with gels, you know, because that's like the biggest carb hit and the easiest, really.
Nice. So are you timing those gels with like a flat section, I would imagine, or maybe a descent or like,
a flat section or actually a climb, because if it's like a road or a climb, then you're going a little bit slower. You can take your hand off the handlebar, reach back. But in this, in the National Mountain Bike Marathon Championships that I'm doing coming up, and then also the Mountain Bike Marathon World Championships that will be on the 17th this month, they'll have feed zones. Like, so I'm like, oh, thank goodness. We're back. We're back to the feed zone. So I'll be able to get a bottle more frequently. So I won't be as worried about carrying everything. I'll just be taking bottles at the feed zone.
Well, that's good.
Where is the Nationals this year?
It's in Maryland, Frederick, Maryland.
Yeah.
Do you know what the weather's looking like right now?
For world championships or
this weekend's event?
It could go either way.
Yeah.
It's in Denmark. So,
okay.
The world championships are in Denmark. So I'm going to fly on Saturday and then the race is next weekend. It looks like it might be a little bit rainy and in the 60s. So we'll see.
That's kind of nice. I don't know what it's like for you, but it was like 110, I think, here yesterday. So
I know you guys are going through a heat wave. It's crazy.
Yeah. So gnarly. Well, surprisingly, I see people out road biking at like 1 and 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And I just have to assume I'm like, they're heat training for something.
It have to be.
I would imagine just, who would do that? But it's pretty incredible. So with kind of touching back to the marathon event, out of curiosity, you were mentioning the camelback. So you're heading out with everything that you're going to need for that whole duration because you're not planning to stop anywhere, correct?
Well, so yes, for this season, the majority of races I've been doing, they don't have they're self-supported feed zones. So in order to get water or something that you need, you have to stop and fill up your bottle. Cause half of the race is racing this and the other half is I'm going to go out and do this big ride and it's going to be an awesome accomplishment. Right.
Yeah.
So for these 2 upcoming races, they're sanctioned races with the International Cycling Union. So this means that I can have support in the feed zone. So I'll have my mechanic there with wheels and bottles, to hand to me. So this way I don't have to stop.
Yeah.
So I'm psyched about this.
Awesome. Nice.
I'm not going out, being weighed down by 20 pounds of water.
Yeah. That's good. That's smart. Yeah. And with that, the carb goals you have, I mean, you mentioned gut training a little bit. Is that something you work on increasing week by week from a fluid and a carb perspective, or what does that look like leading up to an event like this?
Yeah. It's, we've been working on it this season a lot. So I haven't really gone through a progression, say. It's been more of let's test, this grams per hour with this much water in this hard effort.
Yeah.
Because it's not very often that I go max race pace for 4 hours.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So you have, I have these, a handful of opportunities to try these different approaches. Nice. Which I've done, that's why you do training races to test out these different approaches. So definitely. I think my aim is to go for, I gotta touch base with Liz before this.
Get your homework done,
Yeah, but it's, it will be 50 to 60 grams per hour.
Yeah.
And just to make sure that I have enough hydration, to go along with that.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. And when you were sweat testing too, how did you guys do that? Was it the weighing yourself before? Or were you in a lab setting or?
I have done it in a lab setting years ago, which was pretty cool. It was at the Corey Stinger Institute.
Oh yeah.
At UConn. Yeah. So I went in there with Camelback when I worked with Camelback, and I learned all about heat stroke. It was it was fascinating. So that's a great resource, the Corey Stinger Institute.
Yeah.
But most of the sweat testing we've done has been out in the wild. And so
there you go.
I literally, I've done some training, but the recent one, I brought my scale. I hopped on it in a dry kit right before the start, 15 minutes before the start.
Nice.
And then after I finished, I put on a dry kit because I was literally soaking wet, and then weighed myself. And we made the calculation from there.
Amazing. Yeah. I think that is such valuable information. It's if you have a home scale, it's pretty,
it's easy,
free. It's easy to do. Yeah. So I highly suggest people take advantage of that. And it tells us a lot in those different environmental conditions too. We had, oh my gosh, one athlete just blew my mind. He did the same run in the exact same route, same paces, but it was a 10-degree difference the second time he did it. And he doubled his sweat losses.
Really?
Yes. So, he's up in Oregon, and it was just like blew my mind. So it's like, how do you manage, like, you have to tolerate some level of dehydration, and he was an ultra runner. So, imagine losing that amount over 24 hours, like consistent movement over 24 hours. It's, just wild. So
that's no joke. I mean, it's pretty funny. We did a race simulation, in 2020, and that's kind of the last time we were doing sweat testing. Mm-hmm. And Liz looked, it was almost on the same date, actually.
No way.
As this year. It was in August. Mm-hmm. And I lost the same amount. And so, it was pretty fascinating, because I thought I was more heat acclimated this time around, but apparently they can shift from your example. But I guess mine kind of like remains consistent.
That's good. I mean, I'd be curious, same time of year, if the temperature was similar or humidity and stuff like that.
Totally.
Very, very interesting world, and all the research that's coming out in that area right now is pretty, it's very interesting, and just to see the ranges
that we talk about it, because it's so overlooked with athletes. So many athletes come to us with gut issues, especially on the run, and they think it's the food. They think it's the food that they're taking in to cause the gut issues. And I'm like, well, how much are you drinking? Just tiny sips here and there. And it's mind blowing. And once you change that, I mean, it can really be a performance enhancer. Your gut feels good, which is wonderful, but also, you're not losing that performance gain.
Totally.
So carbohydrates and electrolytes. People.
Game changers right there.
Game changers.
We do
Magic.
I'll throw out too, just for the listeners, we have a gut training, like 4 quick tips thing that we'll link for those who are listening as well, if they want to get some quick tips on how to help their gut training. And then I want to be mindful of your time. We did get a question from our audience, and it's in regards to training. So she says, what is your cross training regimen look like? Ooh. And then what does a week of training look like for you? So we could break those into 2 things. Are you doing cross training? What does that look like for you if you are doing that?
That's a great question for me, because I live in Vermont and you cannot ride your bike year round.
Right.
The only way you're doing that is if you're riding the trainer, on Zwift. Mm-hmm. So I do a little bit of that, but since I grew up with a ski racing background, I do a lot of AT skiing, so skinning up the mountain and then downhill skiing down. And that, I mean, you are hiking straight up a mountain. So that gets your heart rate spiked. And
I do that as well. And that is a good workout. And then you get the fun of going down, which I love.
Nice.
You earned it.
Yeah, totally. And then, so I was doing a lot of that. And then I love Nordic skiing, actually. And I think it's just so good for your body when it's in one position for a long time, for most of the year on the bike. I'm only moving in one plane, right? Like here we are forwards and backwards, and I'm stuck at 3 points. And so for me to go out and skate ski, because that definitely has a big leg strength component, that's great for me, because I'm moving in different planes. I'm strengthening my upper body, which is really important for mountain biking. And it gets me off the bike doing something different, and it's a great workout. So I love to do that. I also strength train a lot, more in the fall and winter. And then I maintain, ideally, in season. It's hard to do, I'll be honest. That's like my main cross training. It's important to get a break from your main sport and switch it up. Just for your body and for your mind and your motivation.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen quite a few athletes on the socials right now, just talking about how they feel like it's been such a long season and just like mentally needing a break, I think, from that. So yeah, I think that switching up is really smart. So what does a week of training look like for you? Are you training 7 days of the week? You taking any rest days?
Yeah, I usually I work in 3-day builds usually. And so it's like, they'll be increasing in intensity. So like intervals or volume. So like the longer rides, and then I'll take like an easier day, a spin after that. And so usually it ends up being like, it could be Friday, Saturday, Sunday build that could include a race. And then Monday is either a day completely off or just like an easy spin. Whatever I'm feeling, you know, I give myself full permission to take a day off, and what I sometimes like to call like an average American day, like, let's just like, don't do anything.
Yeah.
You know, like you need
kick your feet up, turn on Netflix.
Yeah. You need a break mentally. Yeah. And then it varies. I mean, this is why I love working with my coach. I've worked with him for almost 20 years. And I don't know what he's going to give me.
Oh my goodness.
And it's very day to day, you know.
Day to day. Wow.
Yes. It can change based on how I'm feeling.
And which is good coaching. It is.
Yes. And like and I need that being like fresh. Like I don't want to predict my training schedule. I don't want to be able to write my own training schedule. It's like, I think this is what she needs right now. And he's very like intuitive, like I am. So we work well together.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He only coaches me too. He used to be a professional racer on the mountain bike, Andy Bishop, and on the road. Like he's on the tour, the Giro. And now he coaches me to like keep his hand in it, which is really fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, we thank you so much for joining us today. I would love to have you back and dive into, I know you had a back injury, and I think we could like totally go down a whole rabbit hole with that and nutrition and but want to be mindful of your time. So where can people find you?
Yeah, find me on Instagram, Lea Eats a Lot. Please go check out my TED Talk. I would love if you watched it and shared it. It's called How to Win When You Don't. And it's a TEDx talk. It's also linked to my Instagram.
Yeah.
And I have a website, leadavison.com. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Most active on Instagram.
Awesome. And her TED Talk is amazing. I do highly suggest it. Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Lea. We enjoyed having you, and we'll have to have you back to talk about all things nutrition for injury.
I would love that.
Awesome.
Thanks, Lea.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.